All right, we're going to talk quarterbacks coming up next. Also, we're going to ask Brian, what's the scheduling aspect of Oklahoma's schedule that might intrigue him the most? We'll do that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, thanks again for making Locked On Sooners and the Portal part of the Locked On Network your first listens every single day. Make sure you're tuned in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit the subscribe button and notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. So, Brian, we got to talk about quarterbacks because quarterback has been the biggest question mark what Oklahoma's going to do in the 2026 cycle. They've had Jaden O'Neal committed since last summer. He originally committed to Seth Luttrell, but stayed committed through the offensive coordinator turnover. Ben Arbuckle coming to town. Ben Arbuckle offers Bo Bentley. What's going to happen here at quarterback for Oklahoma, Brian?
I don't have warm and fuzzies here. I don't have warm and fuzzies, and I'm not a very soft-spoken guy, so I'm just going to lay this out. I don't think they played this very well. Bo Bentley's a dude. Like on my quarterback rankings, I've got him 5th, but if he goes to LSU, would anybody really be shocked? Like, it's probably not real hard to sell quarterback at LSU. I'm going to go out on a limb there. If they don't get him, and I still need to see Jaden not take visits for me to believe he's going to end up in Norman. What do you think OU fans are going to think if we go into the latter part of July and they don't have a quarterback commitment? How's that going to go on your guys' show? And how's that going to go in the YouTube comments?
Well, as our listeners and our audience would tell you, we have one committed, Jaden O'Neal. But as Brent Venables has said in the past, if you're taking visits, are you committed? But he's not decommitted yet. But I think if they finish the 2026 cycle without a quarterback or without one of those two quarterbacks, I think there'd be some questions as to the strategy. Now, we know Ben Arbuckle loves him some Bo Bentley. I think they've been just trying to massage all of this as best as they possibly could.
Yeah.
Look, they offered the kid when they had the other one committed. So I get the whole thing. So this worked in reverse.
Yeah,
it did.
So I don't want to hear anything on the OU side. I know you're an OU fan, but
they took a risk. I mean, they took a big risk in all this, and it might not work out for them, and it might be terrible. But I do come back to this idea that if you're the offensive coordinator and you're brand new to the program, you kind of have the right to pursue the guy you want to pursue. And they've also tried to keep a relationship with Jaden at the same time. Like they want it both ways. But like Marlo Stanfield said on The Wire, like you want it one way, but it's the other way. It's the quarterbacks that have all the power in this.
Yeah, and especially because even like you mentioned, John, Ben comes in and it's like, well, I understand he committed under Seth Luttrell, but I kind of want to add this too. While at the same time, for them, their messaging is that the quarterback position is so volatile because of the transfer portal and NIL. They're like, we would like to get to for insurance purposes long term. Now, is it going to work out that way? I think one of them, if Oklahoma finds a way to get both of them in there, they both will not graduate from Oklahoma. One of them will be gone within a couple of years.
That's kind of the nature of it. But like, I don't remember which school was first, but if you look at the way, and I know he's a goofy guy, but like you can say whatever you want about Kiffin, but like not many guys can coach quarterbacks like he does. And he takes quarterbacks constantly. One of the reasons, they ain't staying. So I wouldn't hate on Oklahoma for trying to get 2. That being said, if you come up with 0, I'm looking forward to coming back on this podcast because I know that you guys will have to do it. That show will do very well for you, by the way, for all the wrong reasons. But it's wild. But then again, if they get Bo, like I don't want anybody to start in the SEC as a freshman, but like as a sophomore, he'd probably be your guy. 2-3 years, you'd have the same guy. And he's just electric. So he's probably about as talented a guy as there is. And it's so wild. He put up those crazy numbers last year at Salina. He'd never started before. Last year's first year he played. And I'm like, whoa. So now he's going to have a year to go back through that film and learn. I'm really curious to see, like, I'm going to watch some of his games. I don't care how I have to get him online or whatever. I want to see what he does.
Got to make that trip to Texas, man.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go to Texas. I might go to the state finals this next year. If he's there, I'll see him. But like, he's one of the few guys that's like literally the investment to go see a high school. Like it's just outside of Dallas too. It's a pretty dope place to go.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't much better than a Friday night football game in the greater Dallas area. Like I get to go all over the country. That's top of the board right there. So yeah, but Bo Bentley's on the must watch list. So I'd be curious to see, based on what I expect Oklahoma's offense to be this year, how quickly he could assimilate, because he's not that much different than a certain quarterback that came over from Washington State.
Yeah, and that's the thing we recognized in why Ben Arbuckle was after him, is he does remind all of us a lot of John Mateer, and John Mateer's ascend playing behind a Cam Ward who, truth be told, Jaden O'Neal kind of reminds me more of a Cam Ward. Moves when he needs to, but does that not make that the primary focus of his game, whereas Mateer is more of a, we're going to have design runs and I'm going to run up the middle and try to run somebody over, which please don't do that in the SEC. Please don't do that in the SEC.
That dude's got one speed, bro. And somebody's going to be broken. Maybe me, but somebody's going to be broken. He's going to miss at least one game this year. You can mark that down, because his mentality is probably not the best for the SEC.
That's a fair point. From there, any prospects that you believe Oklahoma, that you've seen at camps, that have mentioned Oklahoma in a way that you're like, Oklahoma might be in there a lot better than they think?
I don't know what the heck the deal is, but like their connection to the state of Florida is really unique. I'm curious to see if they can get it to the point where they get Jaden Pettit on campus. He's from First Baptist Academy in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Big-bodied receiver, and obviously that's a major need. Their wide receiver room is so goofy right now with all the transfers. That would be great. It's hard to find boundaries, and he's a guy that's going to be 6'4", 225. That would be great. I wouldn't be shocked by that. He's a kid I think that will fit in, faith-based kid. Going to Oklahoma would not be shocking. The other one that I think is a little bit outside the box, but it's because of Venables, is Sincere Johnson. It's a kid that I had a chance to meet. He's from Cleveland. He's a dude, great kid, man. He's a great kid. Mm-hmm. But like, it's going to be hard. Like, I know that I grew up in Indiana. Like, people in Ohio, there's a thing that's this cult. It's called Ohio State football fandom. And he was an Ohio State fan. That's really hard. But I mean, Venables and the scheme would fit him well. So anything's possible. But overall, like, I just think any defensive player, don't be shocked. Elijah Golden, another Florida kid, but he's from Virginia originally. Mm-hmm. Possible defensive lineman, maybe. But don't be surprised by anybody they get, because they have so many guys coming in that are really good all around the country. That's the other thing. This is something I look at from grading coaches. Are you just taking the low-hanging fruit in recruiting? Meaning, a lot of guys hate the recruiting game, and I get it. Like right now, being a college coach sucks because of all the NIL and all that. So they hate it. Like, they're not going to say it publicly for obvious reasons. They hate it. But they've recruited from California to Miami, and they've been very consistent in getting kids to say yes to coming to visits. Like James Carrington's from Los Angeles. They got kids from South Florida coming too. So the staff's doing a good job. They're bought in. And usually when staffs are in that mode, you're going to get a couple of kids that I wouldn't even think about. They're going to flip somebody or whatever that somebody else already has, or they're going to get somebody that are like, he's probably going to come in fourth for that guy. They're going to do better than that, because it's not that easy to get that many kids from across the country to take visits.
Yeah, and it's like Pettit's going to be here on June 6th, so I'm hoping that does happen. If we get Jaden Pettit in town, then I think Oklahoma may have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
what do you think needs to change for Oklahoma on the recruiting front to kind of push them up another tier from what they've done so far under Brent Venables?
It's the chicken and the egg. In today's recruiting world, kids don't give a crap what you tell them. They want to see it on the field. Well, the problem is the visits are first. So in my opinion, Oklahoma will be one of, conservatively, the 5 most interesting teams in the country, probably the top of the board, honestly, to follow this season, because the schedule's retarded. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've discussed that a bunch. We'll talk about that here in just a sec. And secondarily, more importantly, they're in on a ton of kids, even if they don't get them to commit now. If Oklahoma comes out and exceeds expectations, like what's their win-loss over under? 6.5, 7.5?
6.5,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
But their schedule's dumb. If they win 8 games and they're competitive across the board, like they lose to Texas by 3, they're competitive with everybody, blah, 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 then they're going to flip some kids. Oklahoma will be the flying the ointment. Plus, they're always in on kids from the Dallas area. Felix Ojos, kids like that, they're going to be in on kids that may or may not commit to OU now in June and early July. Just be patient. If they do well enough this fall, and if the Oklahoma fans don't complain too much on the message boards, yes, that matters. Believe it or not, that matters. It will help them in recruiting. And they've got a chance to have a really good class because it's not that hard to sell Oklahoma. So you're 3 hours from Dallas. It's in the SEC. It's a tradition-rich program, and they got really good NIL. It'll take care of itself. But to me, the key is they just got to win games. Mm-hmm. That might lead to a little bit of frustration this summer because, they're competing with Texas and LSU and Georgia, et cetera. But that's okay. If they're not competing with those schools, they're never going to beat them anyway. So you've got to go through that recruiting gauntlet to get to the field and win.
So what Brian is saying here is if you don't have anything nice to say on the message boards, don't say it at all.
Don't say it. I'm being serious.
Reading it. The kids are reading it. The parents are reading it.
The parents especially. That matters. I know fans don't want to hear that. I'm telling you, that is fact.
Just open your notes app. Just type it all out on your notes app, and then just delete it. Just let it sit there in the cloud. You got all your frustrations out. You can type them all in the comments here. The parents aren't going to be reading them here. But anyway. So as we look at this schedule that, is number one in strength of schedule difficulty according to SP Plus rankings, Brian, aside from the Texas game, because that's the biggest game of the year every year. It doesn't matter what year it is. It's going to be the biggest game. What in your mind is the biggest game on Oklahoma's schedule?
I would say it's probably the Ole Miss game. That's the kind of game towards the middle. Because I look at everybody's going to think I'm going to say Michigan, and that would be my second pick. But it's the Ole Miss game for this reason. By that point in the season, you kind of know who you are, and they've recruited enough. They should have accumulated some depth. I mean, last year's injury, barring something, if something like that happens again, it doesn't matter. My dead grandmother could be the head coach. You're not going to win.
Right?
You're not. You're not. So, I saw them play Auburn last year live, and they looked pretty good up front and stuff, but they just didn't have the depth at receiver, and that was goofy. Quarterback situation was goofy. They still won that game, by the way. Auburn, terrible at winning close games. They're awful. But do they have the depth? Because Ole Miss is going to score. I don't care what Brent has. Ole Miss is going to score. They are going to light it up. They have what I would say is the most like. I'll just leave it for this. Let people do their own research. The guy that I think is going to lead the SEC in receiving is their slot receiver. That's all I'm going to say. And Kiffin's calling plays. And they got a quarterback that's going to be as good or better than Jackson Dart. Just remember I said that. If they can win a few of those kind of games, you got to serve at home and get the point. If they can win a couple of those games, gain some momentum, obviously it builds confidence in yourself, your fan base, the boosters, administration, but maybe gives you a little credibility and maybe you can go to a decent bowl game. But that schedule, they're not going to the playoff, in my opinion. I know Oklahoma fans don't want to hear that either, but that schedule is just dumb, man. It's dumb. But with that quarterback, this defense, they should be in every game. Ole Miss that might be as good an SEC game just aesthetically. Kiffin against that defensive staff, that is just an absolute Picasso. I can't wait to watch that game. I think that's going to be awesome.
I love it. I have no complaints because I think it's very fair to say. And as a parent, I definitely understand that parents do read message boards because everybody wants to protect their kid. That's just being a parent.
That's just the way it is, man. It's always been that way.
All right, last question on the scheduling thing. Which one do you think is going to be the sneakiest, most difficult game? Like one, everybody's going to look at Michigan, Texas, going to Tuscaloosa, but which one do you think is like flying under the radar that could be much more difficult than what we're giving credit for right now?
Do they play Mississippi State or Vandy? Because those would be.
No, we did not get those gifts.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's the point. It's like it's weird because Vanderbilt got the quarterback back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Diego Pavia, nobody, you're not going to get your team up for Vanderbilt. You're not going to do it. So that makes them a threat against anybody. Man, I don't know. Cause their schedule is all mid-tier and up pretty much. They didn't get any bottom to it. Did they play Florida?
Nope.
No Florida. No
Auburn.
Kentucky.
We got Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and then LSU. In that order.
Probably Tennessee because nobody knows what to expect out of that offense now.
True.
That game is just real. I kind of feel bad for Joey Aguilar. Tennessee fan base is like Oklahoma. They are linear. Either we win or we're angry. There is no in between. And he didn't even get to go through spring ball. Is he going to be good? I have no idea. but they got a lot of talent there. So they got a good staff. So that's another one of those games that like that 6.5 win total. I think they're going to surpass that. But if you want to get to 8 or 9, you're going to have to beat a Tennessee. Like Missouri's going to be good. That's another one you could pick. They're going to be good. Is that an automatic dub for Oklahoma? No. I know that's they've accrued enough talent where if you screw around like you have in some of those dumb turnovers that Oklahoma had last year, like really untimely time.
Jackson Arnold.
Yeah. Yes.
So, wait,
he was just terrible in the clutch. He was. But that's why he got benched. If you have that against those teams that are 7 to 9 win teams, talent-wise, you're going home with an L. Yeah. I think Tennessee and Missouri would be 2 pretty easy picks for that.
Yep. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners and not Locked On the Portal. The Portal, part of the Locked On Network. Go check out Brian's work over there every single day, covering everything from recruiting, transfer portal, to the top stories in college football. Go do that. It's available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel over there as well. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com, and you can follow the show at Locked On Sooners. But until next time, he's Brian Smith, he's Jay Smith, and I'm John Williams. Boomer Jay.
Sooner.
We won't make Brian do that.
No, not this time. But next time.
Next time.
If we do well, he's got to give it to us.